Okay, year three. Right, welcome back to task 2. It is me, Miss Shuttleworth again, and we're going to have a look at the second paragraph to do with clockwork this week. Okay, so task 1 saw us introducing the character, telling you where she is and giving you a little bit more of an information about what she looks like. Okay, task 2, we're still going to be focusing on the character and we're going to give you more of an idea about who she is through her actions and her thoughts. Okay, because often when you are told to describe a character, immediately your brain goes to, well, what do they look like? Okay, but it is very important to remember that with people, it's not about what they look like. That's an important thing to know so that you can know what they look like. But also, characters in a book, you want to know what kind of person they are. Okay, so there are 2 parts of a character description. There's what they look like and sort of the colour of their hair and what they're wearing, and you can get that image in your head. But also, you want to know what type of character they are. So are they brave? Are they kind? Are they polite? Are they mean? Are they evil? Okay, and that's really important for your story, because if you have an idea about what the kind of character you're dealing with is, you can then have an idea of what's going to happen or how they're going to react within your story. Okay, so we've done the sort of what she looks like. Now we're going to look at what type of person we think she might be. All right, and we're going to have a look at that through what she does, so her actions, and what she says or thinks. Okay, so we're going to focus quite a lot on dialogue for these sentences. Okay, and the first one is going to be, what question might she ask herself? Okay, so you're going to focus on a question. So she's in the tower and she's seen these balloons or these strange colourful things, if she doesn't know what balloons are. She's seen them floating past her clockwork window. Okay, and she doesn't know exactly what they are. You get that feeling that she's sort of intrigued by them. She's curious. And so while she's spinning and she sees these things, what kind of question do you think she might be asking herself? Okay, then you're going to move on to showing what type of character she is through her actions, so what she does and how she does things. And then for the third sentence, you're going to think of a statement that she might think or say to herself about what she's going to do next. Okay, so we're showing the type of character we are trying to create. Okay, now the fact that we are looking at dialogue means that we're going to be using inverted commas. Okay, so when we are using speech, or when we are using a thought that someone says to themselves, we use inverted commas to show that they are speaking. Okay, so they go before and after the part that is spoken. Okay, they go around the bit that is spoken or thought. And your speech needs to end with a piece of punctuation which goes inside the inverted commas. Okay, so at the end of the part that is spoken, it will either have a comma, a question mark, an exclamation mark, or a full stop, depending on where it is in your sentence and what type of sentence it is. And that punctuation has to go in the middle of your inverted commas. Okay, and it's really important that you punctuate your speech correctly, okay, because otherwise it doesn't quite make sense within your writing. So I've just given you some examples just before we get on to our sentences, just to remind you of how we make sure that we're punctuating correctly. So, can we go to the shops? Ask the children. Okay, we've got a question there. The bit that is spoken is, can we go to the shops? So we've got our open inverted commas before can. We've got a question mark after it because it is a question, and then your inverted commas. And then you've got this bit of the speech, which is your statement as to who has said it or how it was said. Okay, and you will usually have that in a story so that the reader can keep track of who is speaking. You don't always need it. You could just have, can we go to the shops, if it's very clear who is speaking. But you often need that end bit just so that we know we're talking. Okay, you can also have it where the bit that talks about who is speaking comes first. Okay, and you would punctuate that like this. The teacher said, comma, inverted commas, we need to be very quiet whilst everyone is working, full stop, inverted commas. Okay, so that one's slightly different because you need that comma after the bit that is talking about who spoke, and we put a capital on our speech. Okay, and that makes sure that is punctuated correctly. And then the last one that always catches people out is this one, where it's sort of, you tell them who's speaking and then they carry on speaking. Okay, and I've missed them in inverted commas, so I'll just add them in. Okay, so I need help, shouted Sam. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so he's speaking, and this author has decided to put this who is speaking in the middle. So we do inverted commas, I need help, exclamation mark, inverted commas, shouted Sam. Then a comma, because it's still Sam talking, and you would go inverted commas, I don't know what I'm doing, full stop, inverted commas. Okay, so there's just some examples of how you would punctuate different ways depending on where you have put your speech within your sentence. Okay, so moving on to our first sentence. We are thinking about questions. Okay, so what type of questions would this woman ask as to these balloons or these colourful things floating outside her window? So what could she ask herself? Okay, and it could be as simple as, what are those? What are these strange things that are floating outside our window? Or it could be, why are there balloons floating outside the window? What are those colourful things? Where did those come from? What do they feel like? Why are they so colourful? Okay, and you're going to use your question words here. So what, why, how, where, when. Okay, and you're going to think of as many questions as you can as to what she would ask if she saw that outside of a clock face window. Okay, making sure that you've got those question marks on the end, because if it's a question, you always need a question mark. Okay, so then my sentence, using my question that she might ask, might be something like, what are those beautiful, colourful things floating through the sky? She wondered as she spun. Okay, so she's wondering this to herself as she's spinning around. What are those beautiful, colourful things? Okay, and you can see I've used my inverted commas to make sure that that is punctuated correctly. Okay, so that's your first one. What questions might she ask? Sentence 2. How can you show her character through action? Now, you might need to watch the video again for this one, because you need to see what she does. So when she sees the colourful balloons floating and she's thought her question to herself, she moves from where she was spinning in the clockwork and she goes to the window and she opens it and she tries to reach for this green balloon. Okay, so go to the video and remind yourself of what sort of things she does and write a list of the things she does at this point in the story. Okay, and then once you've figured out what she does, I want you to think about, how does your character do it? Okay, so that might not be how she does it in the video. This is going back to, what kind of character do you want your character to be? Okay, so is she nervous and shy? Has she done it really nervously? Okay, or is she really confident and happy and she's sort of gone skipping over to the window and she's thrown it open with a big smile on her face? Okay, has she done it miserably with her shoulders slouched and walking really slowly? Has she done it sort of sneakily and she's sort of crept towards the window? Has she done it confidently and she's strode with her sort of head held high and she knows exactly what she's doing? Okay, so this is where you can really show what type of character you are creating through what she does, rather than what she looks like. What kind of person is she? How does she move? How does she look? What kind of expression does she have on her face? Okay, so it's a really important part of storytelling where you're showing what the character does and who she is, rather than just telling me that she's confident. Okay, so I've decided to make my character quite nervous and shy for my story. So I've started with, nervously, she moved towards the window and tried to reach them, but she couldn't. Okay, so I've told you exactly what's happened. I've moved my story on as to, she's gone to the window, she tried to get it, but she couldn't. But the fact that I've started with nervously just gives you a little insight into what kind of character she is. Okay. Whereas if I was trying to make a happy and confident character, I might say she skipped towards the window and tried to reach them, grinning from ear to ear. Okay, so she's happy and confident because she's skipping and she's smiling. It makes a really big difference as to what kind of character you are trying to portray with this sentence. Okay, so think very carefully about, what does she do? and tell me what she does, but also tell me how and give me that insight into your character to show me what type of person she is. Okay, so that's sentence 2. And then sentence 3 is she's going to think of a statement. Okay, so we've had a question, we've had some action, and now she's going to think something to herself as to what she's going to do next. Okay, and we know from watching the rest of the video, she goes downstairs, doesn't she? So try and think of a statement that also gives me an idea of what she's going to do next. Okay, because she closes the window and she sort of spins off and wanders downstairs. So what might she think to yourself? So I could reach better from the street. Maybe someone down there could help me. I wonder if I should leave the tower. I wonder if I should go and find where they came from. Okay, so it's sort of an inner dialogue with herself. So she's thinking to herself, she's talking to herself, and she's sort of wondering or telling us what she is going to do next. Okay, and again, this is a lovely place where you can give me some more information about your character as well. So you will notice in my example sentence, I've said, maybe I should go outside and take a closer look. She said with a shy smile on her face. Okay, so remember, I've made my character really nervous and shy and not really sure of what she's doing. So I've just put that little bit of more information into my sentence about how she says it, and well, you've got that another piece of evidence as to what kind of character she is. Because I could have just said, well, she said, but I've added more information. So yours might say it with a smile on her face, or with a smirk on her face, or sort of we're drawing her coat round her as she's really sort of nervous. It's completely up to you, but that's just a really nice way to make your writing even more interesting and make your reader have to pick out the clues to figure out what kind of character this is. Okay, so you should end up, after completing task 2, with a question she might ask herself, perfectly punctuated with your inverted commas, what she does and how she does it, so showing me what character you have created through what she does, and a statement that leads on to what she is going to do next. Okay, so again, we read through our paragraph at the end just to make sure there's nothing we can edit there. So what are those beautiful, colourful things floating through the sky? She wondered as she spun. Nervously, she moved towards the window and tried to reach them, but she couldn't. Maybe I should go outside and take a closer look, she said with a shy smile on her face. Okay, so make sure you've read that through and you've made sure that your character is matching all the way through. So you can't see this, but when I first wrote this, I'd used nervously for my second sentence, and then I'd written something like she said with a grin on her face for my last sentence. And when I read that back, I realized actually, if I've said she's nervous, she's probably not going to have a grin on her face about going outside and taking a closer look. So I changed it to shy smile. Okay, so it is important to think about like cohesiveness. Okay, think about how your sentences link together, because then your story will sound so much more interesting and so much better. Okay, I'm really impressed with how you are working year 3. All right, really impressed. And some of that writing coming in has been amazing. So keep it up. Please keep sharing that work with you, and hopefully you're enjoying working on this. Okay, and I will speak to you next week.